The Chicago City Council approved $51 million in opioid and vaping settlement funds to go to undocumented migrants that are coming to the city from the southern border. And it's a growing taxpayer cost for the city. They've already spent tens of millions, and now they're spending tens of millions more, $51 million. That's on top of what the state's getting ready to send. Here's David Moore, a Chicago alderman, again sharing his thoughts on why he feels this is unfair for Chicago taxpayers.
They have to go through a lottery to try to stay in their house. Some of them end up homeless. Then I have boys and girls in Ogden Park. Everybody want to push them from downtown. Even talking about in some cases arresting them. But they say, Alderman, I want to go to the field house, but it's 100 years old. And it's falling apart. And y'all can't get us no money for that? My heart hurts for both. But I'm reminded when Harold Washington said, loving my people, loving my residents, don't mean I hate anyone else.
So Moore continues on with his thoughts about what this ultimately means for the residents of Chicago. He expressed that he was going to vote no, and he did indeed vote no. Here is more of David Moore speaking at the City of Chicago City Council yesterday.
We got to hold the federal government responsible. People got to get in those rooms. The county have to have some skin in the game. The governor has to have some skin in the game. And we're not seeing that. And it cannot be put on the backs of the residents of Chicago without showing them that they're getting something out of this. And so I urge my colleagues to vote no on this item. Thank you so much.
So again, that's Alderman David Moore. You had another alderman get up in support of this. This is Alderman Andre Vasquez sharing his thoughts as to why he thinks this should be supported by the city of Chicago.
In Chicago, there are three communities I try to advocate for. First and foremost, it's black, brown, and broke. Because those are the folks that have continued to be beaten by this government that doesn't provide for what they need. And it's our opportunity to change that narrative. I want to talk about reparations because I know that's something that was mentioned. I was the vice chair of the subcommittee on reparations under the Committee of Health and Human Relations. In the last administration, we tried to get reparations funding through the cannabis funds to be able to establish that kind of work. And not to just to speak truth, the last administration didn't even provide the funding to establish a commission on reparations to do the work to figure out that legislation. So I get frustrated, as I know many of our friends here do, at the fact that people talk about change, but they don't put money and they don't put the work to do it. And so when I hear the anger and the frustration and the heartbreak from communities that haven't had that investment, I completely understand that. As someone who will be the chair of Immigration and Refugee Rights, I want you to know that's center in my heart when I think about it. Because there are immigrants who come who are black as well. And what we need to figure out isn't about either or. We have plenty of people in Chicago that are homeless now and existing homeless. We have a city that says they care. They haven't built the infrastructure to even deal with that. And now we call ourselves a welcoming city and have not built the infrastructure to handle the situation either. So I appreciate that we all care about the situation. I don't think we're pointing the finger at who we need to be pointing the finger at. The federal government has not provided the amount of funds our city needs to deal with the situation, nor has the state. If Texas wants to send their people here, we should get some of the Texas funding coming up here as well to build that infrastructure. And we don't do that. We have people running for president who want to talk about how our country's better. They're not providing Chicago the funding it needs to show that we are. When we talk about the General Assembly meeting so that we can address the situation, when we ask for funding and get a fraction of what we're asking for, that puts us in a situation where we're fighting amongst ourselves, knowing we all need the funds. Knowing that we don't need a lump sum that's going to run out in 2 months. We need a revenue funding stream. We need the local government distributed fund increase to 10%. We need a real estate transaction tax so we have the funding to provide the housing, not only for the existing, but also for the refugees that are coming in. And if we don't do that, we're going to be here month after month fighting amongst each other and talking about our values, knowing we share very similar values, but aren't taking the steps necessary to get the funding to do so.
So again, that's Andre Vasquez, Chicago alderman, coming back, an impassioned presentation from Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor, who was swearing quite a bit on the Chicago City Council floor. So stay tuned. We'll get to that coming up here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. Getting back into the debate yesterday, Chicago City Council impassioned support while also highlighting the opposition from the idea of giving $51 million to migrants in Chicago. Here is Jeanette Taylor, an alderperson from Chicago, and she was pretty impassioned as to her support for this, saying that she doesn't want to hurt other people.
At the end of the day, Lady Lightfoot, as y'all like to call her, created this chaos. Because I asked to have a meeting in October. Am I correct? Didn't I ask to have the conversation and talk about transparency? But now we having a different conversation. Say what you want about Alderwoman Taylor. I wake up black and I go to bed black every day. And I'm proud to be a black woman. But that don't mean I'm a hurt and on anybody else. I'm not gonna do it. Y'all love talking about y'all Christians and y'all Baptists and y'all love the Lord. Really? And mistreat people who ain't done nothing to us? Because the system is who hurting us. The system who is hurting us. And for black electeds, y'all quick to talk smack about us, but I don't see a lot of y'all standing with us.
So she continued on, very impassioned, but it came down to the vote, and I think it was her that you could hear in the background here screaming while the vote was going on.
Hopkins is not here. David Moore is out, and Alderman Hopkins is absent.
You can hear her saying, somebody needs to tell the president to close the border. So yeah, they ended up passing it. So $51 million for migrants, undocumented, arriving in Chicago. More than 10,000 have arrived. We're going to have to revisit this, highlight again some of these clips, and also get your calls a little bit later on in the show in the 8 o'clock hour. So stay tuned. We got so much more to get to here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY. Springfield's News and Talk coming up on 9 o'clock, and tons more to get to.